Let's look at our next set of graphs. For problem number 2, our vertex is at -2, 4. And since our parabola opens up, that means that our vertex is also our minimum. Our minimum y value is at 4. And because our minimum y value is at 4, this also tells us that all of our y values are greater than or equal to 4. Our axis of symmetry is the line that's going to cut our parabola in half. And that line is at -2. Our y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis, and our y-intercept is at 12. And in regards to our domain, if we look at the ends of our parabola, the ends tell us that the graph goes all the way to infinity, and as a result, there is no beginning and no end. Therefore, our domain, our set of x values, will be all real numbers. Or you can write it out in interval notation, which is -infinity to infinity. Let's look at problem number 3. Our vertex is at 2, 1. Our vertex is our highest point, so that's going to be a maximum. And our maximum y value is at 1. And because our maximum y value is at 1, this tells us that our range is going to be all the y values less than or equal to 1. That axis of symmetry is the line that'll cut our parabola in half. Our axis of symmetry is at 2. Our y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis, and the graph crosses the y-axis at -3. Our domain, since there's no beginning and there is no end, our domain will be all real numbers. Or -infinity to infinity. So you might be wondering, Mrs. Orca, will the domain always be all real numbers? And the answer is yes. When you're graphing a quadratic function, the domain will always be all real numbers. That said, let's look at problem number 4. The domain, all real numbers. Or -infinity to infinity. The vertex for problem number 4 is at 1, -4. And because our parabola opens down, this tells us that we have a maximum, and our maximum y value is at -4. Hence, our range is y is less than or equal to -4. Our axis of symmetry is at x equals 1. And our y-intercept looks like it's at -5. Let's do one more problem. For problem number 5, our domain is all real numbers, or -infinity to infinity. Our vertex is at -2, 1. And because the parabola opens up, we have a minimum. and the minimum y value is at 1. Since our lowest y value is at 1, this tells us that our range is going to be y is greater than or equal to 1. The axis of symmetry is at -2. Our y-intercept is at 5.